Hey everyone, if you guys like our channel and want to support us in other ways other than just watching, you can go to our website. We have a link in the description and we sell merch. We've got a couple shirt designs on there right now. My wife makes them and she's actually going to be coming out with some other designs for us in the future. We're also doing, we do hats, tumbler cups, stuff like that. So we'd really appreciate it if you guys wanted to support us in another way and rep the shirt. So you've played Gran Turismo, and now you think you know everything about racing. Well, you don't. We got to talk about safety stuff, which is something you don't get from any kind of video game or TV show, and how all of this stuff that you would see in a normal race car is actually unsafe for the road. I'm going to show you why. When it comes to going on track and, trying to drive your car to its fullest, a lot of people want to jump into a fixed back seat. Now, a fixed back seat is a non-reclining seat. One of these, it's literally just the seat shape, that's it, you don't get anything extra. Going to a fixed back seat changes everything you need for safety drastically. It's not just you can put this in and run your stock seatbelt and run everything else and you're fine. That's like the misconstrued thing where people will go to a track and they'll find out the hard way that they can't track that day because they don't have the right safety stuff. In the short of it, you need a fixed back seat, you need a harness, and for most things, and even for your own safety, either a 6-point or a 5-point are the ones that you want to get. There is a 7-point that's not really needed for most road-going cars, and pretty much every 4-point isn't actually that safe. You can argue it's in planes. Well, guess what? If a plane goes down, it doesn't really matter if you stay in the seat. You're probably not going to live anyways. This, you need to stay in the seat, and you don't want a submarine, which is sliding under the lap belts, which that's what the 5th and 6th points are. With that, once you get a harness, one, you need to properly mount the harness. Now, I'm sure you've heard of harness bars or little dinky little things that get bolted from your B-pillars behind the seats. Those suck. They're not safe. You're going to bend it in a crash. You can Google bent harness bar, and it's just a plethora of pictures of why you should never have one. So, in order to mount your harness properly, you need a roll bar. You don't need a roll cage. You need a roll bar, which is essentially a 4-point behind the seats. And then you're going to need an eyelet bolt to mount it. So essentially, because we've got 2 seats, because you want the passenger as safe as the driver. Well, usually if you go somewhere, it's actually for instructor stuff. But there's 8 of these, 4 for each seat, because we're doing 6-point harnesses. So the waist and the submarine belts will go to these. And these will be drilled and bolted through the floor of the car. And the reason why it has a giant washer, which these only came with 1 giant washer, I'm not too much of a fan of that. So we got extra washers to go on the other side, just because it's stronger in my mind to have more surface area. Now you have a fixed back seat, you have a roll bar, you have a 5 or 6-point seat belt, and the next thing you need is actually not here because we don't have to put it in the car, but you're going to need a helmet that can attach to a head restraint. So a head restraint is an easy way to say it is a Hans device. Hans device is a company. It's not the actual restraint itself, but any company that sells a head restraint will work, like Next Gen or Simpson sells one and stuff like that. The reason being, we don't want to die like Dale. Granted, Dale was great, wonderful. Although he was 100% against a head restraint, and not wearing a head restraint is why we lost Dale Earnhardt. There's also videos comparing, there's a really good rally crash video where one, like the co-pilot doesn't have a head restraint, the driver does, and you get to watch the difference. And the reason why you need one with this setup is because if you wear a harness, you put this on, it is supposed to be as tight as possible on your body. You're not supposed to be able to move at all. In a regular car, they have a 3-point harness, right? 2 on this side, over, 1, 3, that's it, that's all you need. It moves, and then it stops, and then it tightens up if you get in a crash. So it helps control you, and it's designed with just the one across you so that your neck isn't the only thing moving forward. Where when your car is actually set up to go racing, your neck is the only, or your head is the only thing moving forward. Everything else is strapped to the seat. Now, this sounds like a lot. It is, but so is safety. And I will tell you this single mod, getting all this safety equipment so that you are stuck in the seat, you will have the best like driving experience you could have in your car. It's only because you're now attached to the car. I mean, if you've ever been on track with a 3-point harness, you know your knees are sore from rubbing up against the door panel or the center console trying to hold yourself in. Your arms are sore from holding the steering wheel while turning and all that stuff. You don't do that with these seats. You are latched in, you can literally focus, and when the car moves, you feel it because you're not sliding around in the seat. So yeah, it's a lot of money to get this, but I mean, it's funny. I was in a crash. Me and Fred were in the same crash, actually. I was messed up for like 6 months afterwards. I was in almost the identical crash, speed, angle, corner of the car, everything in my race car with all this seat. I had no issues. I felt no pain. I slept like a baby. The next morning I woke up, I wasn't even sore. This stuff works. There's a reason why they recommend it or require it if you go out on the track with a fixed back seat. So we're putting this in, and we're gonna show you how to mount the harness, where to drill the holes. We're gonna put the roll bar in. You don't really need to see that. It's just, you bolt it in where it fits on your car. This happens to be a 996 turbo. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank you for sticking with me through that long-winded explanation. But when it comes to tracking, the last thing I want anybody to do is to go to track and not have the proper safety equipment so they can't actually drive their car. Because if that's your first time, it's just gonna put a bad taste in your mouth and you're never gonna go out to the racetrack, and I don't know, it's the best place in the world for me. The other thing too is, it's safety. Like, stop being cool. Instagram isn't gonna give you any points if you fucking die. I know people that have had the wrong setup with harnesses or any other stuff, and like one of them has a fuse back. The other ones are hurt. You know, like they can't actually go out and do what they want to do because injuries. And that's the last thing you want, is injuries when you're trying to have fun with your car. So we're gonna go through this. I'm gonna show you how to put it in. You probably won't see a lot of the install stuff because this is more of the safety equipment, not how to put it in the car. But you know, I mean, drilling the holes, obviously I'm gonna show you how to put the harnesses in and all that stuff. But yeah, everybody needs to go out and to the track. Even if I've seen Prius out there. Take a fucking rental car. It's fun. You don't need fancy safety equipment to go to the racetrack. If you don't wanna do all of this stuff at one time, go there with a stock vehicle and a helmet. You will be able to go on track, you will be able to slide, go spin off in the dirt, have beers, tell stories with your friends. It'll be perfect. Or spend a lot of money, be extra safe, and still go out and do the exact same thing. Well, so we've got the weld-in part of this bolt-in cage welded in. As you can see, we had to take out a little bit of the interior. It was interesting figuring out how to get everything out, but at least going back together, it should go smoothly, which right now, we're gonna start putting things back together. Like the side pieces here, They have to be on before we put the roll bar in because you're not getting them on with the roll bar in. You know, the rear interior stuff and everything. And then once we get to the carpet around here, essentially I'm just going to be figuring out where I'm cutting on the carpet to give a little recess for it to wrap around there. This is like the hardest part of doing this. I will say I've done some on like older Hondas, and those interiors fall apart in like 5 minutes. This is a little bit different, though there's a lot of wiring going around here. So I was able to weld around the little pedestals that we had to weld in as much as I could. Excuse the welding, it's horrible, but it's going to hold. That's all that matters. After this is in and I have the rear interior all set, then it's going to be the seats, which is super simple. And I'll go over where the positioning of the eyelets need to be based off of, you know, like the rule book, because we want to make sure that when he goes to a racetrack, regardless of who he drives with, it follows the rules, because then he's allowed to drive. Everything. I probably should have put this in first. Yeah. And just like that, we have a roll bar. Trust me, this was anything but easy. However, I just wanted to make sure that it fit in there well. Now we're going to be putting the seats in, and I'll explain where you want to put the eyelets if you're going to be doing a fixed back seat setup like this. As long as you get the right brackets, they literally just bolt to the normal bolt holes that your factory seats bolt to. They have different mounts for the side of the seat. I'll show you when we're adjusting them. But I'm just going to mount these, well, bolt them in kind of, and then I got to see roughly where I want to drill the 4 holes behind the seat. And once I see where I want to do those, we're going to lift the car, make sure I'm not going to be drilling through, you know, coolant lines or anything like that, because this is a Porsche. And the coolant lines go from the back of the car to the front of the car to the back of the car. So we don't want to drill into any of those. And on most cars, fuel lines, brake lines, evap lines, any of that stuff you don't want to drill into if you want to keep the car streetable and don't want something new to do. All right, so I just wanted to see how I sit in it, because we're kind of the same. I like where the seating position is. Pedals are good, you know, all that reach is good. If you ever want to see where you're supposed to sit, or like what the best position for you to sit is, essentially you sit back in the seat and then you reach, like you keep, you know, here, and you just reach out. And if you're at your wrist on the steering wheel, that's how close you should be to the steering wheel for like aggressive driving. Airbag stuff is completely different. If you're going out on a racetrack consistently, they actually recommend to like unplug or, like, you know, take the fuse out for your airbags, because hitting rumble strips can actually make your airbags go off. Fun fact. But this is okay. The only thing I'm not too happy with is the hole for the harness. It's like, so it's supposed to be in the middle kind of your shoulder, because the harness is supposed to go from your shoulder to the harness bar. It's not supposed to rest on the seat. But I think he's slightly shorter than me, or maybe his torso is. And so he'll be better off here, because it'll be kind of touching the top, which isn't the end of the world. You just want to make sure the angle from your shoulder to the harness bar is good. Which it should be 0 degrees is best. I think it's like -5 or +20 are the acceptable reams or ranges of it. So I'm gonna try and mark, and then we're gonna lift the car and see what I might be drilling into before we actually drill into. How they recommend to put harnesses in, right? The anti-submarine belt, or submarine belt, however you want to say it, it says from this point, essentially, like from the front of you, you want it to be roughly 20 degrees back, which puts it, you know, not very far this way. However, directly under the seat is a very important computer component to make the car run, so we can't really do that. What I'm going to do, which it might just be like frowned upon, but you're not going to not be able to drive your car there. I'm going to put it pretty much right at the back of your, or base of your back, or his back, whoever's back. It'll be sitting there, and it's still going to stop you from going underneath the steering wheel. But you know, it's better. You don't want it further back. You want the pieces, so you want the strap to be as short as possible. These ones, you want to be kind of, you know, maybe a little bit less than 45 degrees, somewhere around there. And you want them to be as straight or slightly in as you can. You don't want them to be wider than the seat. We have the eyelets in, everything's bolted in, the seat's ready to go in, but I'm gonna show you how to do the harnesses, because technically I can do these with the seat in. It might not be fun, but I can do it. But with them, they have these little clips, right? Which make it really nice and easy. So essentially, you lock it in, and then once it's locked in, you grab a cotter pin, and essentially what they want you to do is the cotter pin goes through, obviously, and then in the instructions, it even tells you that it wants it to be butterflied. And that is so that this won't push down and allow it to become unclipped. So I'm gonna do that to this side, and then we'll get the seat in, so and so on the other side. When we go to do the harness on the harness bar, I'll show you that, because there's a specific way, it even says it in the rules, that the harness has to go through the little eyelet loop thing. And if it's not done that way, then you're just gonna find yourself at the track day doing it the right way when you wanna be getting ready to go on track. Take this arm and just lay it over the steering wheel.
Just one arm?
Yeah, but like with you still against the seat.
Just one arm?
Yep. So with your wrist there, that's a good position for here. That means you're gonna have good strength over the wheel, right?
Okay.
And then, yeah. So the last thing is like the dead pedal and the brakes. Like how far are you pushed? Like floor it. Yeah, that looks good.
Good angle.
Yeah, you don't want to be completely locked legs. Not great in a crash when you're fucking, yeah. We don't want to do that. All right, so I actually think the seat's in a good spot.
Yeah.
In this position, I think like we'll get it all lined up. And the other thing too, with your shoulders and the bar, I think you're going to be somewhere around the perfect 0 degree, which is great if you ever do get into the unfortunate.
And one of the things, I'm clearing this now.
Yeah.
Which my leg just got wore out on this thing, because I was using it to brace myself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really fun when you can relax in a race car.
Relax this knee.
Well, this part of you will be relaxed. Your feet and your arms. Huh?
Let me try my helmet on.
Yeah, I'll grab it for you. There it is. Well, wiggle your head around.
What? Plenty of room.
Oh yeah. Better than before?
Oh yeah, I was a lot closer before.
Yeah, little bumps you'd be bumping into it and all that. The other thing you'll have to get used to is when you have the head restraint on, your limited range of movement.
Okay. I need to get my rear view mirror just right, because there's going to be a lot of people in it.
Now that we're happy with where the seat is sitting, well, he's happy with where the seat is sitting, we're going to do the shoulder harnesses. Once you have all 6 harnesses in, it's really just you sitting in and doing, you know, the fine adjustments with where this sits and so on. So we're not going to show you fine adjustments, just how it gets in, and then you move from there to be comfy. What I like to do is essentially have this as far out. Come on. That way, when we're trying to get our measurement, he can tighten it from, you know, the fully open position. But this is where it matters, because we want to make sure that the harness is sitting at a good level before we strap it at its length. So just kind of imagining him being in here and where that's going to be. We're probably good there. All right, so this is where it needs to be done properly. So it goes up over the center, back down. This wraps around. And then you're going to take it the same direction. Come on. So now you're not done yet, but we're going to pull it so that one, you know that it's straight or flat with where it's supposed to be. And two, the next step isn't going to work very well if this isn't pulled tight. All right, so that's nice and snug. One final check to make sure we're still happy with where this is sitting. And then the last thing is coming over the top and then back through the one further from the seat. And that will give a very good, sturdy grab on the belt. All right, so it's going to be loose. It doesn't have to be, you know, perfectly tight on the harness bar. If you can get it perfectly tight, even better. It's not the end of the world if it's not. Now, how Schroth has their instructions, it actually says that it wants it to be crossed. I'm not too much of a fan of that. Plus, when it's crossed, they want you to have a specific angle, which we don't have anything to hold the harnesses themselves. So it's not going to be the end of the world for it to be straight. It would just be better, at least overall, if we could do that. So we'll see how everything works with you know, where he goes for the driving, but this will at least get him past tech. And a nice thing is if you're not in race group, they're not worried about if the, you know, the harness is in date or the seats are in date. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the video and thought it was instructional. This is not, you know, I don't want to scare people away from this, but I also don't want you to have a bad day and not be allowed to actually go on track, because let's face it, mountain carving might be fun, but one, it's stupid to do at speed, and two, there's always that little thing in the back of your head telling you that you don't want to die. When you're on a racetrack, that little thing telling you that you don't want to die is a much smaller voice because there's no possibility of oncoming traffic. There's literally an ambulance on site. I'm pretty sure they require it by law. And there's a lot of people paying attention to you nonstop. So it's a very safe environment, and you can go as fast as you fucking want. Highly recommended.